Welcome to the AI for Business Masterclass from Smart-EDU Hub. This explainer is based on material by Professor Catalin Robbie, and today we're jumping right into the AI ecosystem. We're going to look at what machine and deep learning really are, and more importantly, what they can do for your business. Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the absolute fundamentals of machine learning. Then we'll explore its main types, see how deep learning really kicks things up a notch, look at some real-world business applications, and then wrap up with the super critical topic of risks and responsibilities. So, first things first, what in the world is machine learning? Well, at its core, it's a huge, huge shift in how we get computers to solve problems. We're moving away from giving them explicit step-by-step instructions and moving into a world where they learn from experience. And this quote, it really gets to the heart of it. This single idea is pretty much the foundation of the entire field. I mean, think about trying to spot a fraudulent credit card transaction. Could you write down a rule for every single way a transaction could look suspicious? No way. But you can show a computer thousands of examples of both good and bad transactions. That's the key. And that leads us right to the official definition. See, instead of coding every single little step, we build a more general program that knows how to find patterns in the data we feed it. We just provide the examples, and the machine itself learns the rules. This slide illustrates that shift perfectly. With traditional programming, you have data, you write the rules, and you get answers. With machine learning, we completely flip that on its head. We provide the data and the answers from the past, and the machine's entire job is to figure out the rules that connect them. It's a total game changer. All right, so let's get into the mechanics a bit. How does this learning actually happen? There are a few different ways, but for the business world, there are two approaches you'll see over and over again. First up is supervised learning. This is where you have historical data where you already know the right answer. It's what we call labeled data. For example, you have a big list of past customers and you know exactly which ones stayed and which ones left. The goal is to learn that pattern so you can predict which current customers might leave. Then there's unsupervised learning. Here, you don't have any labels. You just have a mountain of raw data, and the goal is to find hidden structures, like maybe discovering brand new customer segments you never even knew existed. So you've definitely heard the term deep learning or DL being thrown around. So how does that fit in? Well, you can kind of think of it as machine learning on steroids. It's ML's more powerful and, more complex sibling. You see, deep learning uses these things called neural networks that have lots and lots of layers. Each layer learns to spot a very simple pattern, but when you stack all those layers together, the network as a whole can learn incredibly complex ideas. For instance, in a factory, one layer might learn to spot lines and edges in a product photo. The next might learn to identify basic shapes from those lines. And the final layer could put it all together to identify a specific manufacturing defect. And the reason deep learning is exploding right now, it's really a perfect storm. For the first time, we have these massive data sets and the sheer computing power we need to actually train these incredibly complex models. Plus, they are amazingly good at understanding different kinds of data, like text, images, and numbers all at once. Okay, let's bring all this theory back to the boardroom. How are businesses actually using these AI assistants? Well, most of the applications tend to fall into two big buckets. The first bucket is sensing. This is all about perceiving the world as it is right now. It's about answering the question, what is there? By interpreting huge amounts of complex data, like images from a camera or text from a document. The second bucket is predicting. This uses all that historical data to answer the question, what's going to happen next? So a sensing application might be a system that visually inspects products flying down an assembly line. And a predicting application? That could be something that analyzes past sales to forecast demand for the next quarter, or flags financial transactions that look sketchy. You can see how both of these are incredibly valuable. Now, this right here is an absolutely crucial point for any business leader to grasp. A prediction is not a decision. An AI assistant can give you a score or a probability. It might tell you there's a 95% chance a transaction is fraudulent. But the final call, the business decision that requires judgment, context, and accountability, well, that's still made by a person. And that brings us to what is probably the most important section for any leader watching this. We need to talk about managing the risks that come with these incredibly powerful assistants. This is all about governance. Before you even think about deploying an ML system, you have to ask this one simple, fundamental question. And the cost isn't just about money. It can hit your reputation, create legal problems, and mess up your operations. the type of error matters a whole lot too. You see, a false positive is when the system gets it wrong by flagging something it shouldn't have. In our fraud example, that's when you block a purchase from a perfectly good, loyal customer. That's frustrating and just bad for business. But a false negative, that's when the system misses something it should have caught, like letting a massive fraudulent transaction slip through. That costs you cold, hard cash. Balancing these two risks is a huge part of the strategy. At the end of the day, your AI assistant is only as good as the data you train it on. That's it. If you don't have enough data, or if it doesn't really cover all the situations you'd see in the real world, your model is going to be weak. And here's the most dangerous part. If your historical data reflects old biases, say in who you used to hire or lend money to, the AI will learn those biases and treat them as the absolute truth. It's the oldest rule in computing, but it has never been more important. Garbage in, garbage out. Your AI assistant doesn't have common sense. It doesn't have ethics. It has unconditional, blind faith in the data you give it. So if your data is flawed or biased or just plain wrong, the model's output will be 2. And this leads us to the ultimate strategic question for every leader out there. These AI assistants are trained on your company's past. The real challenge and the real opportunity is to make sure you're using them to consciously build a better, fairer, and more successful future, and not just to automate the mistakes of the past. If you want to dive even deeper, you can find more information in the manual, AI from Idea to Implementation, Volume 1, The Winding Path of Artificial Intelligence to Maturity. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer. To stay connected with all the news from today's electronic world, make sure you like and subscribe to the Smart-EDU Hub channel. We've also dropped some interesting links about today's discussion in the description below. Stay smart with Smart-EDU Hub.